You're with the Live Desk, and the top UK financial regulator has found no evidence that politicians are being refused bank accounts because of their political stance.
Economic Secretary to the Treasury Andrew Griffiths has said free speech is a fundamental human right. No ifs, no buts. Everyone must be able to express their lawful opinions without fear of losing the vital access to a bank account.
The watchdog launched the review in August after Coutts stopped offering its services to former UKIP leader and now GB News presenter Nigel Farage. And I believe we are joined by Nigel Farage. Yes, you are here. Nigel, we've also got Liam Halligan, our economics and business editor in the studio. He is absolutely incandescent. Well, what is your reaction?
Well, I'll do my best to control myself. What a complete and utter farce. What a joke. The FCA are told by the government, you've got to look into this. So the FCA go to the banks and say, have you debanked anybody? The banks say, oh no, we wouldn't do that. And the FCA say, oh, that's just great, isn't it? It's a nonsense. I can give you a list as long as your arm of people who are high profile, either up at the front or in terms of funding or organising the referendum campaign of 2016, who have been debanked. It is perfectly clear that politics played a role. And look at my own situation. My own situation's obvious. A 40-page report in which it says they're going to close my account when my mortgage runs off, not for economic reasons, but because my views do not align with those of the bank. What about Royston Smith, the Conservative Member of Parliament, whose account's been suspended over the course of the last year? This is a farce, and frankly, it shows me something. The people at the top of the FCA are deeply political themselves. Think of Sheldon Mills, the executive director, he of Stonewall, he of endless political campaigns on gender and much else. And when you ask a group of biased people to examine bias, don't be surprised when they don't find anything. On the broader issues around debanking, and the fact that people should have a right to a bank account, they say they'll report back in the next few months. But how can I have any confidence in the people running this organisation if this is their initial conclusion?
Well, Nigel, you're absolutely furious and with every right. So what would you like to see happen at the FCA now, today?
Well, I'm pleased that Andrew Griffiths has responded, but it's not good enough. Just to repeat the point that he's made over and over, that nobody should be debanked for their perfectly legally held views, fine. The problem here, and this goes right throughout our financial services industry, is the fish rots from the head down. It's the FCA that have been pushing onto the banks and insurance companies and many others this extraordinary diversity and inclusion agenda. And I think the people running the FCA are not fit for purpose. I think government needs to act. Let's get a financial markets regulator made up of people who have actually worked in financial markets. Wouldn't that be a change? And let's get politics completely out of it. The organisation is run by the wrong people. It is part of the problem and not the solution.
Liam, what's your reaction to what Nigel's saying? Part of the problem and not the solution, the FCA?
I think he's exactly right, and he's being remarkably restrained. This is almost Kafkaesque. As I said, the dossier which absolutely proved the point that Coutts, NatWest were being deeply political in their attempts to debank Nigel Farage is in the public domain. The Prime Minister's responded to it at the dispatch box at the House of Commons. Alison Rose has written to Nigel Farage, the now ousted head of NatWest Coutts, apologising for, quotes, the deeply inappropriate language. And yet the FCA, you know, full of people who are ex-Treasury, ex-NatWest, by the way, just looking at the board of directors now, very little financial expertise, is saying that there's nothing to see here, please move on. What really worries me, Martin and Pip, and I don't want to sort of extend this analogy further than I should, but I do think there's something here. Financial markets are quite shaky at the moment, OK? There's a lot of fear out there that the global economy could slow down. You know, we're looking down the barrel of some kind of financial correction, maybe a crisis. People need to believe the FCA when they say to the markets that this is true and that is true. And what the FCA have done today has totally undermined their reputation as responsible grown-ups.
OK, Nigel, why do you think your bank account was shut?
I know why it was shut. It was perfectly clear in the report because my views did not align with those of the bank. I wasn't a campaigner for diversity and inclusion, and that must have made me a very bad human being.
When it came to the NatWest board and getting rid of a few of them, you were quite successful. Are you going to take the same approach with the FCA now?
Oh, very much so. I mean, I have to say I'm appalled that Sir Howard Davis has been allowed to stay on as chairman of NatWest to see out his term until the end of next April. That strikes me as being very wrong. But look, this is not good enough. You know, this is Britain's most important industry. Yeah. And it's beginning to wither. Liam will back me up on this. The importance of a London Stock Exchange, for example, in very serious decline. Questions about Britain's banks. Everybody tells me, international customers tell me, London is now the most difficult place to get a bank account open. So it really matters who controls Britain's biggest industry. And it's been filled up, that board, with political appointees rather than experts in financial services. So yes, we need a change in personnel. Absolutely.
Nigel, how captured do you think big business and finance has been by the diversity, inclusivity, the stonewalls of this world, and how damaging is that?
Yes, I mean, it's the stonewalls of the world, Martin, but it's also B Corps, this extraordinary organisation which comes from the west coast of America, which recommends not just employing up to limits along the grounds of race, religion and ethnicity, but actually going to 200% of those numbers. So you start to employ people in a bank or elsewhere, not on their ability, but literally on their identity. And this way lies financial disaster. You know, Liam is right when he says that anybody involved with financial markets is deeply fearful of a major correction taking place over the course of the next 18 months or whatever it may be. If you have banks and organisations run by incompetents who were put there because of their religion or their race or their sexual identity, then goodness me, 2008, here we come again.
Well, Nigel Farage, I haven't seen you this angry since the old days of being in Brussels. The Financial Conduct Authority have sent you incandescent, and Liam Halligan is sharing that sentiment. Thank you for joining us on the live desk.
I think it's only just right we just tell viewers what the FCA have said. They acknowledge that they gathered information at speed and said it will do more to address gaps in the data.
Whatever that means.
Well,
yeah.
That's what they're saying.